Hey, RTS Dad here. Today we're playing Realms of Ruin from Warhammer. It's an open beta the weekend of July 7th. So if you're available to join, definitely drop in. If not, you can certainly watch a ton of videos on it. New RTS game, what we're looking to do here is pretty simple. It's kind of a tug-of-war. And on this map, there's no buildings to create. There's a few vantage points you can capture, the arcane conduits, for example, here. If you capture that, it'll slowly expand. And this expansion is very similar to that of kind of the old Civilization games, where if you capture a city, your influence slowly expands and you gain more territory in the map. That's pretty much what happens here. You want that to happen because it does generate command. In the game, command is the in-game currency you can use to purchase upgrades and also additional units. Once you do have a number of command and the other resource, you can then upgrade. Realmstone is the other name. You can upgrade your arcane conduits to have some type of defense. There's a few different variations. I think one can heal, one can just basically act as a tank, which makes it take longer for your enemy to take it. But then essentially the other section of the map is a spot to capture for victory points. And victory points are the name of the game here. Each player starts with, I think, 500 to 700 based on the map size, and it ticks down slowly as whoever has more victory regions on the map. When that happens, the other player will slowly lose victory points, and when that player hits 0 victory points, the game is over, essentially checkmate. And then next up for the controls, we have probably exactly what you'd expect if you've ever played a video game before in your life. It's pretty much clicking a unit to select them, clicking somewhere else to move them. You can certainly attack move, so that might be somewhat unfamiliar to some of you without RTS experience. And that's pretty much it, it's point and click. Next up, I do like this rock, paper, scissors visual. It gives a lot of sense on what beats what. So as you can see here, heavy shields, someone wearing big shields obviously can be successful against a ranged opponent. The arrows are going to bounce off the shields, right? And then assault with swords, they might be vulnerable to range, but could maybe have a upper hand against someone with a heavy shield. So that's kind of the trio of things. And if you see in the center here, the hero, these are the champions of the faction. Long story short, they essentially don't fall victim to any of these triangular rock, paper, scissors deal. They can just straight up beat any other unit one-on-one. They might have some specialties and larger numbers. I think that kind of going to be to be determined as we get additional information on some of these other heroes. So once the tutorial is finally completed, it brings you to the main screen. I immediately chose quick game. I kind of thought that was going to be a versus an AI, as it was my first attempt here. But I quickly found it was not. I looked at the game browser first to see what other people might be available to play from an AI perspective. Because again, I really didn't want to jump into this on my first game playing another player. But I think pretty much everyone playing this right now, obviously it's one of their first attempts anyways. There's no real masters at the game. So one of my favorite times to play games, definitely when they're brand new, fresh out, that we don't have to battle people that know the game for years. So the two factions right now, Kruelboyz and Stormcast Eternals. Stormcast Eternals definitely seem like the paladins. I am picking Kruelboyz here. Again, my strategy is to try to be a Zerg from StarCraft 2 type of gameplay, where I'm just spreading my force out really wide and trying to capture as many points as possible, because again, I don't think anyone at this stage in the game has any really in-depth strategies or even knows how to pair various units together for extreme synergies other than what might be immediately obvious. So I did find a match here pretty quickly. Definitely impressed with the latency, the network stuff here. It's taking just a few seconds, but just remember this is open beta, so this is only going to improve from here on out. So the matchmaking desk complete here, and it did find me an opponent. I'm assuming they've also never played this game before either. And the game loads in, and immediately it's like, all right, I see the mini map in the bottom right. There's a lot of empty control points. All I want to do, all I care about right now is sending as many units as I can out to capture them. I do have the plotting pit highlighted right now. As you can see here, there's a button to upgrade to tier 2. So assuming here you start with tier 1, as you get more points, you can upgrade to tier 2. We're both starting with 750 victory points right now, and as you can see, no one's points are going down. It's just at essentially a standstill. So you can see here I've captured my first victory point, not to be confused with the arcane conduits, which are right there on the left here. I'm going to now rally a trooper over too. And I think at this point I'm basically still trying to figure out even how to recruit new units. It is that button right there. And so with the squads here, I have 3 different types of units like we saw before. Really cool names. Essentially the Gut Rippas are the shield, the Hobgrot Slittas are the sword, and the Man Skewer Bolt Boys, as you might imagine, can shoot bolts or maybe possibly some type of arrows. And of course the main boss as well, so each player gets a boss. This one is named Kill a Boss, which has multiple meanings, as you can see here too. So I'm standing on the conduit, and it is slowly expanding that yellow perimeter. And so you definitely want to stand there as long as you can to get the full breadth of expansion before you move on, because that will give you more conquest points. As you can see here, I have more of the map taken right now in the bottom right. So there's another arcane conduit captured. My opponent did go from 750 to 706 victory points because I was a little faster on capturing a few of those. And so here now, I didn't notice this at first, but I already have 6 out of 6. Like if you look in the top left here, 6 out of 6 supply. So that was a little disappointed. I get essentially nothing to spend money on right now. I definitely, in hindsight, could have upgraded one of my arcane conduits to have some type of item there. But what I wanted to do here was keep producing more units. I wanted to make more units. I wanted to send more out. And so this is definitely not completely Zerg-esque. I only have 6 units total at tier 1. And you can see up here, my units are getting slaughtered pretty bad by the paladins here. And again, I'm trying to buy something else, and I have the command points for it, but until something else dies off, I can't build anything. There's again, I'm just kind of sitting here waiting. That being said, though, I'm definitely trying to take the map as fast as I can, like I mentioned. That was my strategy. So even though my units are probably weaker, they might be faster. I haven't confirmed that, but I'm definitely spreading them out. I don't even really care about fighting at this point. I just want to capture as much as I can for somewhat of an economy start. The voiceover here, though, is so cool. It sounds really realistic. It's hilarious. It makes sense to an extent. And again, this is only beta. So yeah, my secondary goal here, I wanted to get to tier 2 as quickly as possible, because I feel like I already had a disadvantage on like 1v1 fights here with my weaker units. So I figure if I can go heavy economy, spread out quickly, I might have a slight advantage with tier 2 units in the future. The rally points are kind of crazy. Definitely no mountain climbing at this point with the lower tier units. It's kind of a rounded walk around. I definitely noticed though, and so yeah, here's my boss, Kill a Boss. He's pretty strong. But what I did notice here, the rock paper scissors absolutely applies. It's almost like this massive hidden bonus. If you're a sword fighter, you're definitely going to kill archers. If you're archers, you're not going to kill the shieldmen. And so when you do recruit units, they do spawn at the southern section of the map where you might expect your rally point, your spawn location. And again, as quickly as I noticed it, I would just keep sending them out to find more spots on the map to capture. And I noticed my opponent, he may not have noticed that he has 2 empty conduits over there on his side of the fence. So I'm going to go capture them if I can. Really cool battles here, though. So like the shieldmen, right, can clearly beat the archers, but the swordmen are fighting him, and the archers are going to shoot through my own swordsman there to do damage, and he has his own archer. So this little mini battle, I got distracted just looking at how cool it was rather than doing some micro, because again, this game does look really nice and polished already. And this is something okay, so the scene before, I couldn't figure it out. There's this massive tank item essentially on the arcane conduit, which I figured out later was an item that you can build. So if you build that, it will take your opponent a long time to break it down. So again, there's no buildings to make here in this RTS game, but there is a little strategy involved in spending a little bit of your money, your victory points, or your command points rather, to slow down your enemy's onslaught. And at this point in time, I was getting a little nervous. You can see now my victory points are ticking down. My opponent has more of the victory spots captured than I do, and so I'm losing points here pretty quickly. But again, I'm maxed out, 6 out of 6 supply. I can't really make my force much stronger at this point. So the name of the game for me is just pretty much getting to tier 2. I think what I would probably do better in my next game is make better use of my boss, kill a boss. I kind of just sent him around randomly rather than fighting strategic areas. Might have had a lot more success doing that. But yeah, very much tug-of-war. So from StarCraft 2, the kind of that Nexus Wars, that big lane, if you play that mini game, pretty much like that. Keep making units, try to capture points, and push out the units as quickly as possible. I feel like that boss should have died a lot faster there, had a lot of units there. And you'll see he's like unstoppable now, running away. And that does happen with the boss units. They can, in fact, be killed. But if the boss gets, I don't know, what, 5% health or so, they automatically run back to their base and heal up to full. So not critical to kill them, but if you do kill them, the enemy has to spend resources to make them again. So probably advantageous to kill them if you can. And again, still, I'm pretty much just waiting to collect 500 points here to purchase tier 2. I noticed my boss had been defeated, and he costs 25 points as well, so you have to be a little strategic on balancing upgrading your tier versus continuing to bring your boss up. And you can see there again, I defeated another one of his enemies, but they ran back to base. So this is probably the worst part of this game for me at this point. I've lost most of the map control. I'm down to 4 out of 6 units. I just can't even queue them up quickly enough to purchase them. But all this talk from the Uruks, it really motivates me and encourages me to try harder, right? They don't like to lose. They think they're the best. Yeah, so the arcane conduit on the east there, I finally did figure out how to build something there. I slapped something down. I think it did slow my opponent down pretty well. And actually that's one that increases your income. Realmstone income. So again, the top left, 185 currently, getting a +8. Not sure how great that is at this part of the game. Your champion also has a handful of various abilities that cost resources, so you can use command or realmstone to cast them. This game I didn't use any of that because I was again focusing on economy. I feel like I wasn't sure on maybe which ability would have been worth it. especially the Realm Stone abilities. I think the commands, I could have spammed that a little more. I'm already sitting at 1,000 command, and I'm capped out with supply 6 out of 6. So could have probably made better use of that to clear the map faster, as well as build additional items on the arcane conduits. At this point, I'm just dumping resources on the conduits. I'm tired of losing them, basically, and if I have to go to more of a base trade situation, which I think is about to happen here, I win a little bit of an edge, because my units are faster anyway, so if I can slow down the enemy at all, it'll give me a quicker chance to victory. In fact, I didn't even purchase my boss, kill a boss, for the longest time here. Again, probably a mistake. But now I'm at plus 29 income here for Realmstone, so I'm getting pretty excited to see what tier 2 has in store. Because I'm just assuming here, but I don't think my opponent is rushing tier 2 for how many units he's had out and how many, the map control has been so far. I do enjoy the game speed here, though. Like, we're already at 12 minutes, and there's pretty much no chance of cheese from what I can tell so far. I may be wrong on that long term, but again, it's a very slow-paced game. There's small advantages you can pick up, but both players have a chance to actually play the game rather than 4 minutes going by and someone just being defeated. So here we are, finally, had 500 Realmstone saved up, purchased tier 2. It actually takes 30 seconds to charge tier 2. And here you can see I'm just getting defeated by this Wrathful Idol, throwing units at it. I learned later it's smarter to actually use a ranged unit against it. They can outrange the tower, so they can just sit there and shoot it instead of just sacrificing waves of units on it. Okay, so also you'll notice now instead of 6 supply, I now have 11. So I'm at 3 out of 11 supply. And now I've got 3 new units unlocked here. Similar game, right? The shield, the archer, and this like the mage. It's more like a hero. So again, I'm just kind of randomly buying them. I had a lot of money saved up. I no longer have that money. I dumped it all. And I'm hoping to push a lot of units across the field quickly. Because again, we're at a deadlock now. It's pretty much tied up on the map. No one's losing any victory points. Hoping to quickly change the tide of this battle due to that. You'll see here too, I brought Kill a Boss back down here. He's healing very fast. I'm not sure if this costs me any resources. I don't see that happening. I don't see anything being drained. So again, definitely strategic to bring him back to heal him rather than having to repurchase him. It's definitely worth doing that. Okay, so here's my my first couple tier 2 units going across the map. Got some shield bros, got some archers. And in my mind, I'm kind of, again, connecting this back to like Zerg. So like tier 2 Zerg, you're still pretty much on par with tier 1 Terran. Maybe a bad example. Late game tier 1 Terran is actually still stronger with Marines than even tier 3 Zerg. But I'm hoping that's not the case here. And I really wasn't disappointed. It's like you'll see these shield units. I don't know if they have a lot of health or they just have a ton of defense, but they really stay alive a long time. And I failed to mention this before. You can only have 1 hero unit per type at a time. So I do have my tier 1 kiloboss unit out. I also have that tier 2 boss out as well. So it's capped at 1 out of 1, but you can have 1 hero essentially per tier. Or if there's more than 1 hero in a given tier, you might have both of them out at once as well. And tier 2 units cost 2 supply. It took me a second to realize that as well, because I was capped at 10 out of 11, so I can't purchase any more tier 2 units, but I was able to, here in a second, purchase another tier 1. So his hero is doing this crazy Shaman Lightning Storm, Maelstrom deal. Knockback, seem strong, I didn't care. And then my tier 2 shields here, I'm just battering them against that Arcane Conduit, because I don't know how to play the game, but it's going to knock it down. It's going to capture it because they're truly that overpowered. It's pretty strong. I was definitely impressed with those units. So yeah, at this point, I'm capped out at 11 out of 11, and I try to stay that way for the remainder of the game. So again, you can see here on the top, the victory points, I am losing 466 to 499, but the tide is turning. I'm attacking deep into enemy territory, and he really failed on the east there. He lost his hero, he lost a lot of units. All of his defenses are breaking down with my stronger units. I've now figured out how to purchase my own upgrades on the Arcane Conduits. Pretty much picking at them at random, honestly, because I'm trying at this point just to quickly spend my money down, which is very quickly gaining. So definitely a point in the game where I could have made better use of the hero's abilities, even if they cost a few realm points. I think it would have really quickly turned the tide on some of these battles. So while at face value, this game may seem kind of simple, like a tug-of-war, there's a lot of micro things happening here. And I don't just simply mean the units, but that is true as well. Like, so your heroes do have microable abilities. They can perform certain actions, but it costs your resources. It's like spending your actual minerals to perform a basic function. You can't just spam them. You have to be a little strategic with it. You can buff your arcane conduits with specific buildings. Some, again, will give resources and just form tank things. Okay, so this is interesting. Look at the tier 2 shields here against those archers. It's almost no damage. I can't tell. It might be some damage, but it's like each volley was 1% maybe of the total health. An absolute hard counter. And so they pretty much sit up there, those tier 2 shields, doing work for a while here. And now, thanks to the invasion, I do have more than half of the map controlled. My opponent is quickly losing victory points because of that. I was hoping to get to tier 3. Tier 3 was rather expensive, so I think you have to have a relatively long game to get into tier 3. Because if you control too much of the map, you'll gain points quickly, your Realm Stone points, but then you just end up winning. So it's kind of hard to get to tier 3 unless it's a somewhat balanced game between yourself and your opponent. And then I was able to buy, oh yeah, I did actually buy tier 3 in this game, but I didn't have much time to buy units here. So what I'm seeing in the below here is I do have a tier 2 archer bringing out. A lot of these units, again, are very slow. Very slow. So you really have to kind of commit your strategy ahead of time. You can't just fly them across the map and hope for the best. They're pretty slow to move. And I noticed too, I'm not sure if this is a bug, but every time I click to move certain units, they would do like a little animation and try to like pull their shields back up and kind of reset. Like there was like a 1 second delay. So if you're sitting there spam clicking to give a unit a movement, you're going to have to get out of that habit because it is actually going to slow them down. So yeah, I got Kruelboyz going straight up the center. He's doing work. I've got the east side of the map completely taken. And then fortunately, the left side of the map too, the west side of my opponent's area is full of those tier 2 units. So down here, yeah, I am purchasing my first tier 3 units. I figure at this point, I'm getting so many Realm Stone points that the game's pretty much over. The snowball has formed. There's nothing that can be done here. Also noticing too, the tier 2 shield unit we saw a second ago, the archers doing volleys on them, they're still taking maybe 1% damage or less, even though they're not facing the archers. So I don't know if the unit facing a certain position matters at this stage in the beta, if that's something they're going to look into. Personally, I kind of mixed feelings on that. I definitely feel like if you're a shield unit and you're facing an archer, it should be less damage as opposed to them flanking you. But at the same time, if the archers could do more damage behind you, would that make the archer unit just too strong in general? I feel like you could just spam all archers and just perform really good flanks and still win the game. Probably not intended. Not working as intended. Yeah, so here this shield crawling up, and he just basically slaughters these archers. They don't do any damage to him, so it doesn't matter. The center's controlled here. I could have probably kept pushing forward, but again, victory came. The opponent ran out of victory points, and that was the end. So it gives a little snippet at the end here on various points and build orders and things like that. Definitely recommend playing this game for yourself. It's in beta right now, so if you have a chance to jump in, please do. Thanks for watching.